Welcome in to Bears Weekly, a Chicago Bears network production. Download the Chicago Bears official app, brought to you by Verizon, to follow the team on the go. Bears Weekly is brought to you by Advocate Healthcare, Athletico Physical Therapy, Bet Rivers, CDW, Connie's Pizza, IGS Energy, and Miller Lite. Here are your hosts, Jeff Joniak, a.k.a. the Mayor of Bearsville, and his sidekick, Tom the Surfmaster Thayer.
Justin Fields returns as the Bears' starting quarterback after suffering that thumb injury, knocking him out of the last 4.5 games. Others on the mend as well, and yet another new offensive line combination takes the field Sunday in Detroit. That and a Lions preview. The NFL's leading tackler in the NFC, T.J. Edwards, our guest, and yours truly, Jeff Joniak, and Super Bowl winning Bears guard Tom Thayer joins us. This is Bears Weekly, and we're jam-packed tonight. We're also going to hear from Lions radio analyst Lomas Brown. He started for the Lions at left tackle in the late 80s and mid-90s. Good evening, Tom. How you feeling?
Mayor Joniak, I got to tell you, I know I've been hiding it all week, but I am as excited for this game as I've been for a Bears game in probably the last 3 or 4 years. And I can't wait till Sunday. I'm going to have a certain angst about me during the broadcast that you haven't seen in a while. But I'm here to tell you and all the Bears fans listening and that will listen to us Sunday that I am excited about this game.
So those who have been around you for the last 3 decades, the angst, are we supposed to let you just simmer in your stew a little bit before the game? Or you're going to, typically you'll be just staring at the field, writing your notes, and you'll sit in the corner of the booth and not say much. Is that the plan?
Oh, yeah, I'll get there early, well before you, and I will go through the process of the pregame just type of work
Flavor.
I like to do.
Yeah.
And then, but it's kickoff is just going to be just a new excitement for me that I haven't seen in quite a while.
Well, when we used to go there back in the days where they struggled, even with Matthew Stafford, it was tough. The place was empty, and it was tough to call games there. There was just no excitement. The suite lights were turned off because no one was in them. Think about that. Remember? I mean, the logo.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Now you can't find.
Jeff, back in the day, there was a percentage more Bears fans than there were Lions fans. For we've been doing this for almost 30 years. And for 27 of those years, 28 of those years, it has been. Last year was the first time in a Detroit stadium that I felt that momentum that was starting to switch to the Detroit Lions loyalty than to the Bears driving from Chicago 5 hours east to the Silver Dome or whatever they call the stadium nowadays.
Ford Field now. Ford Field.
Field.
The Silver Dome, Pontiac Silver Dome. That was quite the place back in the day. The long bus rides down the country roads to get there.
Right.
And now you're in the city. So Justin Fields, ready to roll. His offensive coordinator, Luke Getsy, today on how locked in he is.
He's been locked in mentally this whole time, especially the last 2 weeks because there was a chance. So that part of it's been good. I think that part of it's been pretty smooth. Getting back on the grass is the important part. We've had a couple chances to do that, and we're still going through that to see how far he can take everything. So, the reps are important, and just making sure that he feels comfortable and ready to rock and roll is really the most important thing. I think as far as what's going on in our offense, he's got that stuff down pretty good, so that part of it we feel good about.
I was asked on Waddle and Sylvie about an hour ago in my segment with them tonight on ESPN 1000 in Chicago that, what your expectations are. And I really don't have any. I just want to see a really good quarterback making smart decisions, timing, consistency, and all the same things that Matt Eberflus is seeking, and try and move the ball against a team that defensively is not as celebrated as the offense of the Lions is, and that doesn't mean they're a bad defense by any means. They can stop the run on you, so you better still be able to run the ball. But it's going to be a real test in that environment for sure.
Yeah, but real quick, referencing Luke Getsy, and T. Waddle and I have been in plenty of team meetings where Mike Ditka says you can't turn the switch off and turn it back on. So in terms of Justin Fields, you got to keep that switch on whether you're injured, active, playing or not, because you got to stay mentally in the game. And I think Justin has, and I think he made reference to that the other day at the podium. And like you're saying, though, Jeff, the motivation of the Detroit Lions, I don't know where the team emphasis is. You know, they have a tremendous amount of respect offensively for what they're doing and how they've outgained their opponents. But the reason they've been able to outgain their opponents is because of what the defense has been able to do. So I think it's going to be an interesting atmosphere. And, you know, the Bears have some assets of their own that are going to go in there and be able to be competitive in this type of environment. But I hope Justin re-explodes onto the scene like never before.
Yeah, rust is always going to be a topic when somebody's on a layoff like this, and it was again today for the offensive coordinator.
You're relying or leaning on all of the work that you've put in since, 2 years ago, even really for him, right? And then, if you get specific to this offseason, to this training camp, and all the game reps that he's had already. And like I said, he's been close to playing, so it's not like it's just he hasn't done absolutely anything here in these last couple weeks. So I think the way practice went yesterday, and we continue to get more reps this opportunity this week, I think we'll be just fine.
With that being said, with a quarterback coming back like that with a thumb, what are you doing as a Lions defense to start the game? Are you challenging them right away at the line of scrimmage? Are you trying to do Yankees chain? Are you bringing the heat right away just to see where he's at?
Well, first of all, I'm going to decide, do I want to have a spy or not? Do I want to have multiple rushers and then one sitting back? I have to make sure that I talk to my outside defensive rushers that they have to have complete respect on their contained rushing. But now if I have a Justin Fields type athlete coming back into the fold and kind of remnants of the Washington Commanders game, number one, I'm thinking about Justin. He's got the ability to be accurate and target a weapon at DJ Moore as frequently as he can. I have to be a little bit more concerned about Darnell Mooney and what he's been able to do the last couple weeks in terms of the effectiveness that he's had in the game. And then I got to consider, what do I think about Cole Kmet? How does he affect this offense, and how am I going to try to challenge his coverage at the line of scrimmage? And, the Bears have a good running game. So all those things you have to take into account, and then you add the athleticism of Justin Fields, the defensive coordinator, the defensive staff. They have a lot on their plate when they're figuring out how to game plan the Bears.
He ran for 279 last year in the two games against Detroit, and he picked up 9 first downs doing so. That'll be interesting, like you said, what they will do, because he hasn't run as much as he did a season ago. That's not to mean he won't do it that way over the final 7 games of the year. But the deep ball, the plus 20s, he's had good success this year, and that's been a very good quarterback rating, very good production, and it stems from that Washington game clearly with DJ Moore. Also, we got to talk about the offensive line, because, we kind of anticipated the way it laid out, and that is the move of Tevin Jenkins to left guard from right guard, where he played the last few games, played 2 games at left guard, and then Nate Davis is back at right guard. And so how big an ask is this, according to Luke Getsy, for Tevin Jenkins?
Well, it's never easy anytime anybody has to move any position. But to speak to Tevin, I mean, the ability to come in and be a tackle and then be a guard on both sides. I mean, he's played tackle on both sides, he's played guard on both sides. I just think that speaks to the type of player that he is and the capability that he has.
More than up for the job. He's had an outstanding year when he's been on the field.
Yeah, go back in my generation, there was an offensive lineman, Bruce Matthews. He played up and down the offensive line and made all-pro at every single position. And I think Tevin Jenkins, the Bears are fortunate to have a guy that, throughout the course of the year, I was concerned about Tevin and where his career was going. But his arrow is pointed at such an upward position that I don't think the transition from right guard to left guard is going to be that much. I think having the ability to sit in meetings when they did say that, Tevin, you are going to be the starting left guard, and have the opportunity to talk to Braxton Jones multiple times in meetings and practice, and Chris Morgan gets these guys ready. To me, I'm a little concerned about the conditioning of
Nate Davis?
Nate Davis, because, and I'm thinking about the people when they get inside the building, it changes the temperature of the building. When it gets warmer in there, is Nate Davis going to be healthy and physically ready to go in terms of conditioning throughout the late third and fourth quarter?
And then lastly, Khalil Herbert is likely to return. That window is still open for him. They haven't officially done that, but they did release Darrington Evans. And, boy, this game is brutal, isn't it? You have a couple guys, like Greg Stroman last week did a nice job when he went in there. You had to make the roster shuffle. Same thing with Jerron Harmon, a veteran, and now another veteran. But a possible Herbert-Foreman backfield, what that might look like.
Khalil was playing really well. What was it? It was Washington, I believe, right, that he got hurt, and he was crushing it that night. So we're excited to get him back on the field. And exactly how much or all that looks like, I think that's kind of, like, again, we got to figure that out. Who's all healthy, who's able to go, and then on top of that, how much can you go when you haven't played in a few weeks too? No, I think Deontay's done a great job, right? You talked about play style. He's bought into all that stuff, right? And we love the downhill style that he's been playing with and the physicality that he's been playing with. And last week the run right on the goal line was just kind of articulates exactly what he's meant for us.
But a little banged up.
That's the thing about it, Jeff. It's going to be the healthiest are going to play. And if Deontay Foreman is less than 100%, then I have to ask Khalil Herbert to be completely honest with me. Is he capable of doing everything that is required of him in his job? So the number one guy health status will probably be Roschon Johnson, although it's going to be a rotation of the backs that are going to fit into this offense the best.
All right, we've got lots of help tonight, including Dan Barilli and Jordan Tredup, as always, from the Bears helping us out. And then here tonight, we've got a couple of key members of our staff. We got Jake Cantu helping us out, Jack McGrath, and, of course, the executive producer of the Bears Radio Network, Eric Ostrowski. Time for a break. When we come back, we'll hear from T.J. Edwards, the NFC's leading tackler, here on ESPN 1000 of the Bears Radio Network.
This is Bears Weekly with the voice of the Bears for 23 years, Jeff Joniak, on the Bears Radio Network.
This segment of Bears Weekly is brought to you by CDW, People to Get It, with Tom Thayer, Jeff Joniak, and T.J. Edwards, the local product turned Chicago Bear. Is it still feeling like, you're just coming back home, play football?
Yeah, no, definitely. Anytime you can put that C on, man, it's you take a lot of pride in that where I come from. So it's been good.
Top tackler in the NFC, second in the NFL. You're doing some really good stuff. I ran into you in the cafeteria yesterday. I had to tell you, man, it's Pro Bowl level stuff, and I know you're not going to embrace that too much, that kind of conversation. It's what you do, but how have you felt as you've adapted in this offense, and how they've adapted to you, the chemistry of the unit?
Yeah, I mean, I think, things like this, when you come into a new scheme and just playing with, different guys, I think it takes a little bit of time for sure. So, I think it took us a couple games to really get going, especially, in the run game and things like that. But as of late, man, it feels, seamless. I feel like we're playing aggressive and physical, all the things that, good defenses do. So we just got to keep, riding that train and force a couple turnovers and keep stacking these wins.
TJ, you and I do have some similarities. We both grow up locally. We went to college a couple hours away from Chicago. We went away from the Chicagoland area a little bit, and then we came back to play for the Bears. I felt the pressure of playing locally was a healthy pressure. It made me be really concerned about my preparation, making sure I was always prepared, and I think the family is a plus. How do you take your new role here locally after being away from Chicagoland area football?
Yeah, no, I feel like most of my, even most of my, classmates from high school, everyone kind of goes away for a second, and they end up back in Chicago and Illinois. So, no, it's been awesome, man. I got a lot of, close family still here, a lot of, friends and teachers. I felt really some great support from the people around me. But you're right. I mean, you wanna play as good as you can be. Like, you really just want to be so detailed on what you're doing so that when those big plays come, you can make them and have all those people that, did a lot for you growing up, have them be proud of what they see on there on Sunday. So I take a lot of pride in it. I know, my family, my mom and dad take a lot of pride in it as well. So it's been awesome.
When you talk about development of chemistry as an offensive line, we kind of have to play together for a little while to develop a familiarity with each other. And when you talk about the defense, is it chemistry developing with the linebacker position, or is it chemistry that develops with the defensive line? Because now you got 8 different defensive linemen who are contributing to your defensive front. So where is that chemistry development for a linebacker?
Yeah, I mean, I think for linebackers, I think it's front end and back end, to be honest with you. I think it's one of those things to where in the back end, you got to kind of understand how certain guys are playing certain routes and, where they're going to be in this coverage and things like that, just because of off the reps that you've had with them. And then with the D-line, understanding, how they play certain blocks, to know that maybe I might be getting over the top here, I might be, coming underneath. But after time goes, you play with these guys for a minute, it kind of allows you just a better feel for when we see certain things, or when we're playing a certain team who runs a certain scheme, kind of understanding how those guys are going to play those blocks and things like that. So it helps us a lot as time goes.
TJ Edwards, our guest here on Bears Weekly on ESPN 1000 of the Bears Radio Network. With Tom, I'm Jeff. And TJ, I used to wear the Bear uniform. You used to have parties. Do you still feel like that little kid sometimes? Are there moments in the game when maybe it's a timeout and you're just looking at, hey, I'm really a Bear right now? I know maybe that sounds ridiculous because you've been in the NFL a long time, but is there some of that, though?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's one of those things to where even at the, like the family fun day, I remember going to that when I was a kid and just watching all the Bears out there and just being, in awe. So I think it really started from there for me, and then everything else was just surreal. At the end of the day, you got to go out there and do your job and all those things, but you can still appreciate, where you're at and how lucky I am to be able to do this for my hometown team, for sure.
You intimated the aggressiveness of the defense is really, you guys are flying around. The numbers say so. It's impactful. Number 1 run defense the last 6 weeks in the NFL, and it's coincided with 3 wins as well. Do you feel like you are turned loose a little bit more with Eberflus? That could even be a shirt. Turn loose with Eberflus. I just came up with that one, Tommy.
No doubt. I mean, he's he is an aggressive style of play, and I love that. He's also big into linebacker play and understanding kind of how we see the game, and just because that's kind of his roots, and so kind of having him in our ear as well of how he's seeing certain things. And with this scheme, he's done it for so long. He knows all the ins and outs, what it's supposed to look like. So it really helps, Tremaine and I, who kind of just got here, understanding exactly what he wants. And I would say over these past couple of weeks, we finally started to, really truly understand what was going on and able to just play football, man. And when you get to that point where you can just read and react, that's when good things start to happen.
So you talk about being able to read and react. Now you're going to play a divisional opponent a couple times within just a couple of weeks of each other. Yep. So are you the type of guy that you play a team at home in Detroit and you can hear all the counts? You can hear the offensive lineman making changes. You can hear the quarterback's cadence. Are you a guy that likes to hear the volume of the opponent and then can pay dividends 2 weeks later? Or are you a guy, like you said, just read and react even if you're playing at home and it's a loud back crowd?
I mean, for me, I really enjoy, honestly, like all the information that I can get, whether it's the center talking in terms of where their points going, where their slides going, the quarterback, changing a play, mid-play, kind of understanding all that. So, when we play away and it's quieter when they're on the field, it really does only help us, just kind of having a good understanding. And that can change, throughout the game, right? The first series you hear something and then you hear it again and it confirms it for you and allows you just a titch of time to kind of, get a little closer to the play. But all those details and all those things I truly enjoy about the game. And I feel like we have a linebacker room that is really the same way. So for us, that really does help us.
Back in my generation of playing, it seemed like defensive lines used to stem a lot more from one position to the next during the course of a cadence. So at home, you'll be able to make the defensive line will be able to make the stem call and you'll be able to move efficiently. Does that change anything about your game when the defensive lineman is going to move before a certain formation move? Or are you like dialed into the huddle call in terms of your assignment?
Yeah, I mean, I think, and I think we do a good job of it here. But
do too.
Yeah, like I think our movement is really good, and I think we have the guys who can really do it well. But I mean, for us at linebacker, you know, we understand where they're going to stem to. So that's kind of where the chemistry part plays into it, right? Knowing when in the snap count they're going to do that. So we know we can stem to our alignment to make sure that we're in the right spot when the ball is snapped. But I really like that. And I do feel like that's ticked up a little more as well these past couple of weeks. But I like that we have that movement. You're trying to kind of just, you know, makes them think for a second, right? You know, anytime you get those guys up front thinking, it's only really good things for us. So as much as we can do that, we want to.
Tom and I were
just real quickly. I'm just sorry, Jeff. So my high school's in the state playoffs. In the defensive line they played against last week, they were stemming, and it created 4 false starts by my high school offensive line.
Yeah, Joliet Catholic guy.
Joliet Catholic. All right, well, it was real football, baby. Yeah,
right.
Tell them your high school record.
Yeah, let's hear it.
My 4 years of high school, we only lost 1 game.
Jeez.
But it's a tradition. You know, we run the ball. We throw the ball. We throw the ball very little.
I know about it. Yep.
Again, go ahead.
No, yeah, I know about it, the tradition and things like that. But I mean, especially even at the high school level, I can't imagine, you know, what that does for O-lines when, you know, the D lineman's moving around and things like that. It causes problems for the offense for sure.
Well, it did even in the NFL level, because when we had a defensive line that stemmed really quickly during the cadence, and there was a lot more quarterback directly under center, so they heard the count, and we used a volume count even in a crowded stadium. It made you a little apprehensive because you didn't know when they were going to move in at the last second. And I like the way that you guys do it. You have a lot of nice length in a guy like Javon Dexter. You have a lot of good power in Andrew Billings. Yep. And so I think the different type of defensive lineman that you can put in front of you, I think it's a true asset to you guys.
No, I mean, big time. I mean, even I think, you know, Big Bill does a really good job of it. And, you know, I can just think of a guy that strong and that powerful, you know, understanding he's going to be at this one spot, but then in a second, you know, he's moved over. It changes your mindset. And like you said, it just makes you kind of think for a second a little bit longer. And that helps us. It really does.
We were talking right before you got here about the old Dallas Cowboys. You know, they go up and they go down, right? And you knew that, you know, they were coming off the ball. And so I just read this. Kurt Warner posted something. He said that the best offenses in the league right now, it's pre-snap motion, it's flexibility of positions on the offensive line, offensive weapons, rather, personnel and formation flexibility, a heavy dose of play action. So as you listen to that as a linebacker, you know, these guys, the 85 Bears offensive line, they put their hands in the dirt every time.
No doubt.
There's 2-point stance tackles. That doesn't really make it seem like, you know, it's going to be a play action. Is it hard for you to see in today's NFL when play action is coming, or is it disguised to a level that it does make you take that first step towards the line of scrimmage?
Yeah,
or does it matter? It's just by team.
Right. Yeah, and kind of how you like finish there. I do think it is by team, especially, you know, tendency wise, right? I mean, like Detroit, you know, they run the ball 30 times a game, so that's going to make it a little more difficult to see play action. But, you know, as linebackers, we're so keyed in on, you know, high hats, or just in terms of how the O-line's firing off the ball and when they're not versus play action and things like that. But kind of to your point earlier, though, like the motions and everything like that, it kind of makes you, the offense trying to get you to show their hand of what we're in and things like that. So, and Detroit does a lot of motions this week as well with a lot of good weapons. So for us, we want to be so in tuned in terms of what everyone's doing so that we can kind of, you know, make it all look the same and try to, you know, confuse them a little bit and then, you know, go attack.
Tom, I have a couple fun things for him, and we got to let him go. All right. You might have time for one more question, but here we go. This is stuff I pulled out of media guides from. It's just a quick thought. It's a quick thought, right? Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Quick thought here. Okay. Aside from internet and texting on your phone, you can only have 3 apps on your phone. What would they have to be? 3
apps on my phone. I got to have some type of messaging from my wife. I mean, got to. You know, we absolutely have to. I would say just because my family communicates a lot via like social media, so maybe Twitter, and I'm not that active on it. I mean, then the maps. I'm not great. I'm not great with direction whatsoever. So anytime I can type that in, I'm good to go.
Tom, you even have an app on your phone?
Listen, the only one I would have would be weather, Waze, and then text messaging, because I don't have any social media.
All right, this is for both of you guys. If you had to make a sandwich with the same 2 meats and one slice of cheese, one type of cheese for the rest of your life, what would they be?
Ham and cheddar.
2 meats.
Oh, 2? Ham, turkey, cheddar.
Tom?
Turkey, ham, Swiss.
All right.
Swiss, all right.
All right.
Yes.
Skydive or deep sea dive?
Deep sea dive, yeah.
I've done deep sea diving, so I would do it again.
What would be the title of your autobiography, both of you?
Ooh, undrafted, baby.
I love that. That would be my next question. Free agency as an undrafted NFL player or free agency coming to a local team. Was there any similarities or difference between those transitions?
Just in terms of like how it came about, you're saying?
Yeah.
Well, because you could pick both, right?
Yeah.
As an undrafted.
The difficulty of it.
Yeah. No, it is difficult. I mean, I think, when I was coming out, it was more so kind of who I felt really, truly wanted me the most, to be honest with you, and where I felt that I had a chance to play as early as I could. But in terms of free agency, I think, even when my agent told me that Chicago was a possibility, it was hard for me to, just really not pay close attention to that, just because it's been my dream, man. Like, it's, as you know, like there's nothing really that kind of beats that feeling. So it was an easy choice for me.
Hey, we're the lucky ones, man. We appreciate your effort.
No, appreciate you guys.
I echo that. First free agent to sign in the NFL this year, right here at home, and keep making those plays. It's fun to watch you play, and I love when they blitz you. So I think you're an underrated blitzer.
Same.
All right, thank you very much. That's T.J. Edwards, Bears linebacker. Tom and I return after this break on ESPN 1000 of the Bears Radio Network.
This is Bears Weekly with the voice of the Bears for 23 years, Jeff Joniak, on the Bears Radio Network.
And this segment of Bears Weekly is brought to you by IGS Energy. Jeff and Tom getting ready for Bears-Lions Sunday at Ford Field in Detroit. We'll have it for you starting at 12:02. Pregame gets rolling very early, and then, of course, the network portion begins at 10 o'clock with Dion Sylvie and Lance Briggs. We should have some fun talking about Bears-Lions. And today, Tommy, Dave Borgonzi was the defensive coach at the podium, and we just heard from T.J. Edwards. Here's the impact of T.J. Edwards from a coaching perspective.
Well, to me, he's not unheralded. He's been awesome. And again, it kind of goes back to everybody sees the production on the field, and it's been high. He's second in the league right now in tackles. And I know he's got some sort of a record through the first 10 games with the Bears right now. And that's really good. Even more importantly is just the leader that he is, how he carries himself and how that kind of ripple effects throughout the whole defense and the whole team. So, he's been super productive on the field, and he's been a great character guy for us in the building.
Jeff, so how many tackles is TJ credited with?
Well, 110.
Okay, and the reason I'm asking you, I think the leading tackler on the Detroit Lions, Anzalone, has like 43. I don't know if I misread that, if I saw the stats wrong that I was looking up, and I'm incredibly surprised how there can be such a discrepancy in the amount of tackles that T.J. Edwards is credited with, and if that is the leading tackler of the Detroit Lions. And you'll know more than me. However, T.J. Edwards has impressed me equally as much almost every game throughout the season.
Yeah, I just like the way he's attacking right now too, and that goes for all the linebackers right now. That's the way they're playing football, and it's important this week because of what Detroit does, and Borgonzi talked about that as well with the backfield. Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs, they both can run it. They got an inside-out game. They both can catch the football.
Yeah, so we feel like we're doing pretty well. Big, strong, hits the hole really fast, runs with great pad level, really good after contact, keeps his legs moving. Both backs, him and Gibbs, are dynamic. So they have two really, really good backs.
How unique is kind of Gibbs' skill set in terms of what he can do both as a runner and pass catcher?
Yeah, so he's unique. He reminds me a little bit of Kamara in New Orleans. And obviously those guys have a New Orleans background where he's really good out of the backfield catching the ball. But obviously kind of a interesting dynamic with Montgomery's more of the power back and Gibbs is more of the outside runner, but dynamic in the open field. Can make people miss, but also finish his runs.
Yeah, I mean, I really like both players, and 66 tackles, by the way, for Anzalone leads them. Yeah,
66, and
yeah.
even there's a significant number there. But one thing I think that Dave Montgomery in his time with Chicago, he was underutilized at the receiver that he really is. And then you look at the performance, the rushing performance of Detroit Lions. There's a significant separation between what the defense has given up to their opponents and what the Detroit Lions have been able to do. But that's one thing about the Chicago Bears. I think their running game travels well, and I do think even with the offensive line changes that they'll be able to go in there and challenge the Detroit defense with their running game.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. When we come back, we'll listen in to our conversation with one of the best left tackles in Detroit Lion history as we take an inside look with Lomas Brown. It's coming up next here on Bears Weekly on ESPN Chicago and the Bears Radio Network.
This is Bears Weekly with the voice of the Bears for 23 years, Jeff Joniak, on the Bears Radio Network.
This segment of Bears Weekly is brought to you by Athletico Physical Therapy. Visit athletico.com to request an in-clinic or virtual appointment and start feeling better tomorrow. Jeff Joniak, Tom Thayer. And we got a good conversation from our Bears Etc. podcast portion of it with Lomas Brown, the former left tackle of the Detroit Lions, now one of the radio analysts. And Tom Thayer kicked off the discussion with the former player, a guy from Tom's era.
You had a chance to play against the 85 Bears.
Yes.
And a lot of the conversation about the 85 Bears always started with the defense. When you talk about this version of the Detroit Lions, if we're going to have a conversation, are we going to talk about offense first or defense?
No, I think with this version, that's a great
good
question.
One.
That really is. I think, wow. I'm going to say you're going to talk about the offense because of the consistency of the offense, how it's been consistent. And that's what we've been talking about pretty much for the last, leading into this year, coming out of last year and talking about this year, just how consistent the offense has been, the offensive line, the performance that Jameer Gibbs and that David Montgomery is putting on, the record-setting things that Amon-Ra St. Brown is doing. Actually, the record-setting things that Sam Laporta, the rookie tight end, is doing. It's just a lot of things great that's going on the offensive side of the ball. Penei Sewell not giving up any sacks of pressure. Taylor Decker going up against some of the better pass rushers. If you think about it, Bosa and Khalil Mack, and they held both of those guys to no sacks, no pressures, just they were quiet. So I think that's going to get the headlines because we've been talking about that much. But I tell you what, the defense, they're trying to make a little noise over there on the defensive side of the ball too.
You mentioned the offense, and I got to talk more in detail about Jared Goff because, when he was at the Rams and was dealt, everybody, I think, assumed he was going to be a bridge quarterback to some draft pick in the future. I know the three of us talked about that, and look what he's done. He has protected the football, is engineering an offense that is top 5 or 6 in almost every major offensive category. He's got weapons. He's stretching the field. He's extending it horizontally and vertically. And he's only 29 yet. So
yes. Is
he there to stay?
I mean, he should be. I mean, if I'm the Lions, I'm trying to tie him up right now if I can. I don't understand what else he would have to do. I mean, I take that back. Of course, we want to win, and we halfway through this season. So I know it's a lot of things left to do. But, oh, my goodness, like you said, from where he came from to where he is now, he's an extension of Ben Johnson out there on that field because he knows that playbook completely. It was a great play. As you know, on that 75-yard run from David Montgomery, he audible. He checked out of what they were going to have and checked into that run because he's seen the 3-down line. It was was just 3 down linemen in that defensive scheme that they had out there. And, of course, man, with our guys up front and with David, you're going to take that all day long. Tom knows there's already gaps there for you. So you're going to take that, and that's what Jared Goff did, and it ended up being a 75-yard touchdown run. So he knows the offense in and out. He could get us in and out of good plays. He knows just where the guys are going to be at. He knows, like you say, how to orchestrate these guys and put them in the right position. You know, all the different motions and formations that we go in. It's a lot of movement up front when you face a Detroit Lion offense. A lot of movement that Ben Johnson has. So Jared has done a wonderful job. And like I say, I don't know why, maybe they start talking to him, his agent behind the doors, but I think he's done what he needed to do to say, hey, I'm the quarterback of the Detroit Lions.
Lomas, Justin Fields expected a return for this game after a 4-week absence, really 4.5 games since his thumb injury. What is he going to be looking at defensively from the Detroit Lions? And do you feel if there's anything that concerns fans about, maybe going all the way and being the Super Bowl representative in the NFC, is that side of the ball the question mark?
Yeah, I think it is. And, we expect Justin Fields to come in, and I really think we're going to get the best version of him. I think that sometimes when a player is able to sit back and just watch, just sit back and observe and see things differently, see it from a different view, see practice from a different view, hear things from a different view. It can help a player. It really can. And I think with Justin, I just think this is something that I think coming back off this injury, watching the way that Tyson Badgett played and some of the success that he had, I think Justin's going to come back and show us the best version of himself. So I'm a little nervous, going into this game because I really don't know what to expect. I mean, he's hurt us in the past, and, we hadn't been real good with quarterbacks that can buy time and help their offensive line out with their legs. So, it'll be interesting to see the approach that Aaron Glenn takes to him and how if we're going to finally be able to get that guys down on the ground, because we get pressures on the quarterback. It's just that we haven't been able to get them down on the ground.
Well, Lomas, I'm a little nervous as well, and I'll tell you why. I've been to every Chicago Bear Detroit Lion game in Detroit since 1985. And I think last year it started to build an atmosphere that your indoor stadium could be a true weapon on behalf of the Detroit Lions. So can you give us a description of what the Bears fans that are listening on the radio should expect inside that building Sunday?
Yeah, it is. It has turned into a home field advantage. And really, Tom, even on the road, oh my goodness, we take over stadiums now. It's just been unbelievable. Every stadium we've been in, we pretty much have taken it over, other than Baltimore. But I'll say this, there was still a lot of Lion fans in Baltimore. They just really didn't have any reason to cheer. But it's been that way. And it's definitely a home field advantage, 12th man type of advantage here in Detroit now. Dan Campbell, he has the pulse of this community, of this state, and everybody's bought in right now. So you're going to see the best version of our fans as far as, bringing the noise. So, yeah, I expect you guys to come here and use the silent count to come here. And I know I'm quite sure Coach Eberflus and that staff, they practice that all week long, but it's going to be unbelievable. The fans are going to be ready, man. We're riding a winning streak after going out to L.A. and beating the Chargers. So the fans are revved up, and as you know, we got another game coming up on Thursday, Thanksgiving. So we had like 3 games. It'll be 3 games in 11 days. So hopefully, there won't be too much on these guys' body. And like I say, they could come out and give their best version of themselves on Sunday.
Well, that is Lomas Brown the analyst on radio for the Detroit Lions Radio Network and an outstanding left tackle. He told us a great story. I love his passion. I love his we have a good time talking to him. But a great story about Barry Sanders, which I think on the 29th, or maybe it's 27th, I can't remember. He's dropping his documentary and why he left the game so early. But he told a story at the end, and I don't have time to play it, unfortunately. But it was his Barry Sanders' rookie year, Tommy. Christian Okoye and he were battling for the rushing title. Okoye's day was done in Kansas City. Lions are playing. They have 9 yards left, 9, to win the rushing title. And he didn't want to go back in the game. They said, and they begged him. Why? He just emphasized that was not important to him, and he just refused to do it. So he did not.
And Lomas told us he had a $250,000 bonus for leading the league in rushing.
Which is crazy that he passed on that.
I mean, just amazing. But I am super interested in seeing a documentary about Barry Sanders because I was always curious, is he a soft-spoken guy or is he so super introverted that he doesn't like to talk a lot? So I'm interested in being exposed to a little bit more of Barry Sanders.
Yeah, it's a story I had never heard. It was a good one, and we'll be looking forward to see Lomas on Sunday at Ford Field. One more segment to go. We'll take a trip around the NFL. More on the Bears and Lions with Tom Thayer. I'm Jeff Joniak. Thanks for listening here on Bears Weekly on ESPN 1000 and the Bears Radio Network.
This is Bears Weekly with the voice of the Bears for 23 years, Jeff Joniak, on the Bears Radio Network.
Hey, you want VIP access to every Bears home game? Exclusive seating, sideline credentials, and more are now available. Get the ultimate VIP fan package this season by visiting ChicagoBearsVIP.com. Jeff Joniak, Tom Thayer. Our final moments as the Bears get ready for the Lions. We got to give a shout-out to Cairo Santos, Tom. 200 field goal last week, happened to be the 54-yarder after the penalty. That took a lot of gumption, a lot of concentration after he made it, and then there was a penalty on Cody. He's had a really good time with Chicago. He said he picked this place knowing how difficult it was. And Gabby from the Bears website wrote a story about it. I only glanced at it, but I saw the quote, and he could have gone several other places, but he said if it wasn't going to happen here, it wasn't going to happen anywhere. And so he challenged himself, and look what's happened.
Yeah, they put together premier field conditions in Soldier Field, so when he is at home, he's kicking off of a beautiful surface. He's got a couple of indoor games left to kick in throughout the Detroit and Minnesota. But I think the telltale sign for any kicker in the Midwest is what type of conditions are you going to kick in for the remainder of the year. He kicks in Chicago 3 or 4 times. He's going to kick in Cleveland. So there's no guarantee that the conditions are going to be as perfect as they have been.
All right, we got about a minute 20. Just quick thought when I fired at you. I don't know if you've heard these things. Titans quarterback Ryan Tannehill asking for his release. Cleveland is the only quarterback-needy team that could take on his contract. Do you think the Titans should grant that?
Yeah, they should grant it, especially if they don't need him and they don't think this future's there.
All right, Steelers special teams coach Danny Smith on the wrong end of a collision on the sidelines against the Packers. Did you see that? He suffered a torn rotator cuff, Tommy.
Cheap hit. Yeah, I did see it. It was super unfortunate for the coach.
Monday Night Football, KC Philadelphia Super Bowl rematch. Where are you going?
Where is it?
I don't know that
I'll
answer.
go with the home team.
Okay. Guys in the studio, do you know where that game's at?
Home
I don't
team.
know.
I don't care.
Anyway, I didn't know this. KC allowing the fewest points in the NFL. That's interesting. And Justin Herbert, Chargers court. This is in the Doug Coletti, our Director of Research and Statistics category. 59 NFL starts, including the playoffs. His offense has scored 1,502 points. And the Chargers have given up 1,502 points in his 59. I mean, it's just, how's that happen?
That's a stat guy's dream.
That is a stat guy's dream.
Yep.
Tom, thank you so much. We'll talk to you Sunday. That's going to do it for us. Thanks to our crew, Eric Ostrowski, not Charlie Bevan. See, I went off script. I'm sorry, guys. I went off script. You know who you are. I don't have my script in front of me, so I'll let you go. You guys, thanks for listening. This has been Bears Weekly on ESPN 1000, the Bears Radio Network.
Thank you for listening to the Chicago Bears Network presentation of Bears Weekly, hosted by the mayor of Bearsville, Jeff Joniak, and Surfmaster Tom Thayer. Podcasts are available on the Chicago Bears official app. Bears Weekly has been brought to you by Apple Podcasts, Bet Rivers, IGS Energy, and Miller Lite.